The stars looked different from the observation deck of the UES Defiant. Captain Susan Mitchell stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the void of space. In just 6 hours, humanity would have its first official meeting with an alien civilization. "Captain, Admiral Peters requests your presence on the bridge," said a voice from behind her. Susan turned to see her communications officer, Lieutenant Greg Harper. "Thank you, Lieutenant. Tell him I'm on my way." As Susan walked through the corridors of Earth's flagship, she felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. The United Earth Defense Force had only 30 ships to its name. 30 ships to represent all of humanity to a vast alien empire. The bridge hummed with activity when she arrived. Admiral Alan Peters, a tall man with graying hair and steady hands, nodded at her entrance. "Captain Mitchell, good. The Zraxian diplomatic vessel will arrive in less than 5 hours. Is the Defiant ready?" "Yes, sir. All systems are optimal." "The crew is prepared." Admiral Peters lowered his voice. "They'll outgun us. Intelligence suggests their fleet numbers in the thousands. We need this to go well." Susan nodded. "Ambassador Collins has been briefed on all our first contact protocols. If these Zraxians are reasonable, we'll establish peaceful relations." "And if they're not reasonable?" Peters asked. Susan's face hardened. "Then we show them that humanity shouldn't be underestimated." The 5 hours passed quickly. Susan stood at her station as the sensors detected the opening of a massive hyperspace window. "Contact emerging," called out the sensor officer, Billy Winters. It's huge, sir." The main screen showed the Zraxian ship as it appeared. The alien vessel was at least 5 times the size of the Defiant, shaped like a curved blade with glowing red energy pulsing along its hull. "Open communications," Admiral Peters ordered, straightening his uniform. The screen changed to show the interior of the Zraxian ship. 3 reptilian aliens stood in what appeared to be their command center. Their scales gleamed under their ship's lights, and vertical pupils narrowed as they studied the humans. "I am Admiral Alan Peters of the United Earth Defense Force. On behalf of humanity, we welcome you to our system." The tallest Zraxian stepped forward. "I am High Commander Krazathar of the Zraxian Empire. We received your primitive radio signals and decided to investigate your species before you accidentally harmed yourselves with technology you clearly don't fully understand." Susan felt her jaw tighten at the condescension in the alien's voice, but she kept her expression neutral. Admiral Peters maintained his diplomatic tone. "We appreciate your concern. We've arranged a proper meeting with our ambassador. We look forward to establishing friendly relations between our peoples." Krazathar made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Yes, we will meet your representatives. Prepare to receive our shuttle." The communication ended abruptly. "Well," said Admiral Peters with a sigh, "that could have gone better." 3 hours later, Susan stood in the Defiance conference room as Ambassador Richard Collins welcomed the Zraxian delegation. Collins, a former diplomat with decades of experience negotiating with difficult parties, showed no sign of intimidation as Krazathar and 2 other Zraxians towered over him. "Thank you for accepting our invitation," Collins said smoothly. "We've prepared a presentation on humanity's history and achievements. We believe there's much our civilizations could learn from each other." As Collins began his careful presentation about Earth's cultures, scientific developments, and peaceful intentions, Susan watched the Zraxians' reactions. They seemed bored, occasionally exchanging glances that clearly communicated their lack of interest. When Collins finished, Krazathar flicked his clawed hand dismissively. "Your species has barely left its cradle," he said. "You have existed for a mere blink of time. Your technology is primitive. Your fleet is microscopic." He gestured toward the window where Earth's assembled ships were visible. "We control thousands of warships that could obliterate your homeworld in hours." The room fell silent. Susan felt her heart rate increase, but years of training kept her outwardly calm. Admiral Peters spoke carefully. "We understand that the Zraxian Empire is powerful and established. Humanity doesn't seek conflict. We offer friendship and trade. Surely peaceful relations benefit us both." Krazathar tilted his head. "Perhaps. Your species does show some potential," We will establish a non-aggression treaty. The Zraxian Empire has no immediate interest in your territories. The meeting continued for several more hours as terms were discussed. Despite the rough start, Ambassador Collins managed to secure a basic treaty that at least protected Earth from immediate threat. As the Zraxian delegation prepared to depart, Krasthar approached Susan, who had remained silent throughout most of the negotiations. "You command this vessel?" he asked, his voice containing a note of surprise. "I do," Susan replied evenly. "Interesting. On our world, females rarely achieve such positions." He leaned closer, his reptilian smell making Susan fight the urge to step back. "Your ship is well maintained, despite its obvious technological limitations. You should visit our world someday, see what real power looks like." Susan smiled thinly. "I look forward to that opportunity, High Commander." After the Zraxians departed, Lieutenant Olivia Martinez, the Defiant's chief science officer, approached Susan with a data pad. "Captain, I recorded some unusual energy readings from their vessel during the meeting. They don't match the weapon systems we could see." Susan took the pad, studying the readings. "What do you think it means?" Olivia frowned. "I think they're hiding their true capabilities, but also," she hesitated, "I think they might be hiding their true weaknesses too." Later, that evening, Admiral Peters called a meeting with his senior officers. The mood was tense as they gathered around the conference table. "They clearly don't respect us," Captain Noah Bradley of the UES Resolute said. "Did you see how they looked at our ships? Like we were children playing with toys." Admiral Peters nodded. "They see us as primitive, no immediate threat." "Is that bad?" asked Commander Donna Klein. "At least they're not attacking us." "It's an opportunity," Susan said, causing everyone to look at her. "They underestimate us. That gives us time." Admiral Peters leaned forward. "Time for what, Captain Mitchell?" Susan's eyes shone with determination. "Time to prepare, time to develop. Time to make sure that if they ever decide we're worth conquering, they'll face a humanity they never expected." Olivia presented her findings about the hidden energy signatures, suggesting that Zraxian technology had exploitable weaknesses. As the meeting concluded, Admiral Peters stood at the window, looking out at Earth's tiny fleet, as the Zraxians had called it. "They mocked our ships," he said quietly. "Let's hope they never give us reason to show them what humanity is truly capable of." Susan joined him at the window. "If that day comes, sir, they'll learn that sometimes the smallest fleet can cause the biggest problems." In the darkness of space, the massive Zraxian ship entered hyperspace, leaving behind a humanity that appeared weak and primitive. But appearances could be deceiving. In labs and shipyards across the solar system, humans were already planning, already adapting. The clock was ticking. And humanity would be ready. 5 years passed since humanity's first meeting with the Zraxian Empire. On the surface, relations remained peaceful but cold. Trade happened on a small scale, but the aliens kept humans at arm's length, treating them like curious children rather than equals. In his lab beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Eric Wilson hadn't slept in nearly 30 hours. Dark circles hung under his eyes as he stared at the holographic display, showing a simulation of Zraxian shield technology. "Run it again," he told his assistant, Lisa Kelly. "Increase the frequency by another 0.3%. Lisa adjusted the settings and ran the simulation. The virtual representation of a Zraxian energy shield flickered and then collapsed completely. Eric's tired face broke into a smile. "We did it." "The quantum disruption field works?" Lisa asked, her eyes wide. "Not just works, it completely shuts down their defensive systems." Eric leaned back in his chair. 5 years of studying their technology, 5 years of picking apart every scrap of data we could gather, and now we have a way to neutralize their greatest advantage. Lisa frowned. "But we're not at war with them." The treaty is a piece of paper," Eric said. "Have you seen the reports from the border colonies? The Zraxians have been scanning our defenses, testing our response times. They're planning something, and when they make their move, we'll be ready." Across the solar system, humanity worked, in silence, preparing for a conflict they hoped would never come, but knew was likely inevitable. In orbit around Mars, Captain Susan Mitchell, now commanding the newly commissioned UES Indomitable, watched her pilots run combat drills. The smaller, faster ships of Strike Squadron Delta moved in perfect coordination, executing maneuvers that would have been impossible 5 years ago. "Time?" she asked her executive officer, Commander Frank Rivera. 17 minutes, 32 seconds, he replied. "They've shaved another 40 seconds off their best time." Susan nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression. The Zeraxians rely on brute force and overwhelming numbers. Their formations are predictable, their tactics rigid. They've never had to adapt. And we've done nothing but adapt since they arrived, Frank said. Exactly. Susan turned as a young officer approached. "Yes, Lieutenant Parker." "Message from Earth Command, Captain. General Rodriguez requests your presence at headquarters. Priority Alpha." Susan's eyes narrowed. Priority Alpha meant only one thing, a situation that could potentially threaten Earth itself. General Patricia Rodriguez stood before a three-dimensional map of human space, highlighting the 30 colony worlds humanity had established in nearby star systems. Her weathered face showed the strain of leadership, but her voice remained strong as she addressed the assembled military commanders. "Intelligence reports confirm it," she said. "The Zeraxians are planning to annex our colonies in the Proxima Centauri, Tau Ceti, and Epsilon Eridani systems. They're calling it a protective action to maintain stability in the region." "Protective?" Captain Noah Bradley scoffed. "They're stealing our worlds." "Ambassador Collins has filed formal protests," Rodriguez continued, "but the Zeraxian diplomatic corps has been dismissive. They don't believe we have the military capability to stop them." Susan, who had arrived just minutes before the briefing began, studied the map. "How many ships do they plan to send?" Intelligence analyst Kevin Garcia stepped forward. "Preliminary estimates suggest a force of approximately 100 warships divided between the three systems." A murmur went through the room. Earth's visible fleet numbered only 57 vessels, most smaller than even the medium-sized Zeraxian ships. "What about the Neptune project?" Susan asked. Rodriguez pressed a button, and the display changed to show Jupiter and its moons. Hidden among them were hundreds of small, stealth-equipped vessels, the true extent of humanity's fleet, developed in secret over the past 5 years. "The Neptune project is ahead of schedule," Rodriguez said. 342 ships are operational. Another 200 will be ready within 6 months. "The Zeraxians have no idea," Frank whispered to Susan. "That's the point," she replied. "They've seen only what we wanted them to see. A small, struggling fleet. Meanwhile, we've been building the most advanced armada humanity has ever known." Rodriguez continued her briefing. "Dr. Wilson's quantum disruption technology has been successfully miniaturized and installed on all Neptune vessels. We've also developed advanced stealth systems based on our observations of Zeraxian sensor capabilities." "So what's the plan?" asked Admiral Peters, who had remained silent until now. Rodriguez's expression hardened. "We wait." "Wait?" Bradley looked shocked. "While they take our colonies?" "We wait until they commit," Rodriguez explained. "If we reveal our true strength now, they'll simply gather a larger force. We need them to believe they're facing our tiny, visible fleet. We need them overconfident." Susan understood immediately. "We let them throw the first punch. Let them think they're fighting 30 ships when they're actually facing 300. Exactly, Captain Mitchell." Rodriguez looked around the room. "Operation Thunderbolt is now active. All Neptune vessels have been assigned to battle groups. When the Zeraxians make their move, we'll be ready." 2 weeks later, in his office at United Earth Defense Headquarters, Kevin Garcia sifted through intercepted Zeraxian communications. Most were routine military chatter, but one caught his attention. He quickly forwarded it to General Rodriguez with a priority flag. Within an hour, the general had assembled her key officers. "The Zeraxians have moved up their timetable," she announced. "They're sending a security fleet to Proxima Centauri B, ostensibly to protect the colony from pirate activity." Pirates? Susan asked incredulously. There hasn't been a pirate attack in that sector in years. It's a pretext, Rodriguez said. The real purpose is to establish a military presence. Once they're entrenched, they'll expand control until they effectively own the colony. How many ships? Admiral Peters asked. 30, Garcia answered. A small force by their standards, but more than enough to overwhelm the colony's defense force of 5 ships. Susan leaned forward. The Indomitable can be there in 3 days at maximum speed. Let me take Strike Squadron Delta. 12 ships. Against 30? Bradley looked at her as if she'd lost her mind. Susan smiled. The Zraxians will see exactly what they expect to see. A desperate, outmatched human response. They won't know what hit them. Rodriguez nodded slowly. This could be the perfect opportunity, a small enough Zraxian force that we can defeat it decisively, but large enough to send a message. Admiral Peters stroked his chin thoughtfully. If we succeed, the Zraxians will be forced to reevaluate their assessment of our capabilities. And if we fail? Bradley asked. We won't, Susan said firmly. For 5 years they've mocked our tiny fleet. It's time they learned why that was a mistake. Rodriguez stood, her decision made. Captain Mitchell, you have authorization to proceed to Proxima Centauri B with Strike Squadron Delta. Admiral Peters will position Neptune forces in nearby systems, ready to respond if needed. As the meeting ended, Susan felt a mix of tension and anticipation. For 5 years, humanity had prepared in silence, developing technologies and tactics specifically designed to counter Zraxian strengths. Now finally, they would see if their preparations were enough. In the shipyards of Jupiter, the hidden vessels of humanity's true fleet waited. In research labs across Earth, scientists put the finishing touches on weapons the Zraxians couldn't imagine. And aboard the Indomitable, Captain Susan Mitchell prepared her crew for battle. The Zraxians were about to learn a painful lesson. Sometimes, the smallest fleet hides the biggest surprises. The colony on Proxima Centauri B was humanity's first settlement beyond the solar system. Nearly 50,000 people called it home. From her office window, Colonial Governor Sandra Bell could see the green fields where earth plants grew alongside, native blue vegetation. It had taken years of hard work to build this place. She wasn't about to let aliens take it without a fight. They're entering orbit now, said Major Carl Winters, head of the Colonial Defense Force. 30 ships, just as intelligence predicted. Sandra's jaw tightened. Open a channel. The wall screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the Zraxian command ship. A reptilian officer with black and gold scales stared back at them. I am Fleet Commander Drazkor of the Zraxian Empire. We have detected pirate activity in this sector. We are here to establish a security base for your protection. Sandra stepped forward. Commander, this is Governor Sandra Bell. We appreciate your concern, but our own security forces are more than capable of handling any threats. Your assistance is not required. The Zraxian's eyes narrowed. This is not a request, Governor. The Zraxian Empire has decided your colony requires our protection. We will land troops within 6 hours to establish a permanent base. That would violate our treaty, Sandra replied firmly. Any military presence must be approved by Earth's government. Drazkor made a dismissive gesture. Treaties can be reinterpreted when security concerns arise. Prepare for our arrival. His voice hardened. Resistance would be unwise. Your defense force consists of 5 small vessels. We have 30 warships. The screen went dark. Sandra turned to Major Winters. Options? Limited, he admitted. We've sent distress calls, but the nearest Earth forces are at least 3 days away. Even if they came at maximum speed, they'd be badly outnumbered. Sandra moved to her desk and pressed her hand against a hidden scanner. A secret compartment opened, revealing a small device, an advanced quantum communicator developed for emergencies. Maybe not as outnumbered as the Zraxians think, she said. Captain Susan Mitchell was already en route to Proxima Centauri when she received the quantum communication. Her ship, the UES Indomitable, led a squadron of 12 vessels that appeared to be rushing to the colony's defense. Exactly what the Zraxians would expect. Governor Bell, this is Captain Mitchell. We're approximately 18 hours from your position. That may be too late, Captain, Sandra replied, her holographic image flickering slightly. The Zraxians are demanding we allow them to establish a military base. They've given us 6 hours to comply. Stall them, Susan ordered. Request a meeting. Ask for clarification on their demands. Do whatever you can to buy time. And if that doesn't work, Susan's expression was grim. Then your defense force needs to hold out until we arrive. After the communication ended, Commander Frank Rivera approached Susan on the bridge. 12 ships against 30, he said quietly. Even with our advancements, those are tough odds. Susan smiled thinly. The Zraxians need to believe they're facing a desperate, under-equipped response force. That's the only way Operation Thunderbolt works. She turned to her communications. Officer, Lieutenant Harper, send the activation code to Admiral Peters. Tell him it's time. Across human space, hidden military installations powered up. Ships that had been disguised as cargo vessels or research stations revealed their true nature. The Neptune fleet was mobilizing. On Proxima Centauri B, Governor Bell had managed to delay the Zraxian landing by requesting a formal meeting to discuss the details of their security arrangement. Fleet Commander Drazkor agreed, but his patience was clearly wearing thin. We have extended you the courtesy of this discussion, the Zraxian said as he sat across from Sandra in the colony's administration building. But my orders are clear. We will establish a base here. Commander, surely we can reach a compromise, Sandra said, fighting to keep her voice steady. Perhaps a small liaison office instead of a full military installation. Your resistance is futile, Drazkor said, standing abruptly. Your pathetic fleet cannot stand against us. Submit or face extinction. Without waiting for a response, he stormed out of the room. Minutes later, sensors detected Zraxian landing craft preparing to launch. Major Winters contacted Sandra from the Defense Center. Governor, they're coming. Our 5 ships can't stop them, but we can slow them down. Sandra closed her eyes briefly. Do what you must, Major. Help is coming. The colony's 5 defense vessels moved to intercept the Zraxian landing craft. They were small, quick ships, designed primarily for patrol duties rather than combat. Against the might of 30 Zraxian warships, they seemed like insects attacking elephants, but they fought bravely. Using hit-and-run tactics, they targeted the engines of the landing craft, disabling 2 before the Zraxian warships could respond. When the alien vessels opened fire, the human ships scattered, using the planet's moon as cover. Clever, Drazkor muttered as he watched from his command ship, but ultimately pointless. Then his sensor officer called out in alarm. Commander, multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. The main screen showed 12 Earth vessels appearing at the edge of the system. They were moving in a formation the Zraxians had never seen before, an overlapping pattern that seemed designed to confuse targeting systems. Drazkor laughed. They send 12 ships against our 30? Your species truly is irrational. He opened a communication channel. Earth vessels, this is Fleet Commander Drazkor. You are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now or be destroyed. The face that appeared on his screen was that of Captain Susan Mitchell. Her expression showed no fear, only calm determination. This is Captain Mitchell of the UES Indomitable. Your forces are in violation of our treaty. Withdraw immediately. Drazkor's scales rippled with amusement. You've never really fought the Zraxian Empire before. Today that changes. Susan's response was quiet but clear. You've never really fought humans before. That's about to change. The Zraxian commander gave the order to attack. His 30 ships moved into a standard combat formation, weapons powering up to full capacity. By all logic, the battle should have been over in minutes. But the human vessels did something unexpected. As the Zraxian energy weapons fired, a strange field appeared around the Earthships. The deadly energy beams simply dissipated, their power neutralized. What is this? Drazkor demanded. How are they still intact? Before his officers could respond, the human vessels launched their attack. Moving with incredible speed and coordination, they targeted specific systems on the Zraxian ships: communications arrays, weapons nodes, and engine ports. 3 Zraxian ships lost power within the first 5 minutes of battle. 2 more found their weapon systems completely disabled. Another spun out of control as its navigation systems failed. Impossible. Drazakor slammed his fist on his command console. They're using technology we've never seen before. How could they have developed this? The answer came in the form of another communication from Captain Mitchell. You mocked our tiny fleet, Commander. You saw only what we wanted you to see. As she spoke, sensors detected more FTL signatures. Admiral Peters had arrived with the first wave of the Neptune fleet, 20 more ships smaller than the Zraxians, but equipped with the same quantum disruption technology. From the planet's surface, Governor Bell and the colonists watched in amazement as the supposedly outmatched human forces systematically disabled the Zraxian fleet. Not by destroying them, that wasn't the plan, but by rendering them helpless, unable to fight back. In his command ship, Fleet Commander Drazakor faced the unthinkable: defeat. 7 of his ships were completely disabled. Another 5 had lost weapons capabilities, and more human vessels were arriving every minute. Send a message to High Command, he ordered, his voice tight with rage and disbelief. The humans, they tricked us. They're stronger than we thought, much stronger. As Admiral Peters's flagship approached the Zraxian command vessel, Drazakor received a transmission. This is Admiral Alan Peters of the United Earth Defense Force. Your fleet has been neutralized. You have 2 options: surrender, or we will be forced to destroy your remaining vessels. For the first time in his long military career, Drazakor faced a choice he never expected to make. He looked around at his damaged bridge, at the screen showing his crippled fleet, and at the rapidly growing number of human ships surrounding him. With a bitter taste in his mouth, he gave the order to surrender. The Battle of Proxima Centauri was over. The message to the Zraxian Empire was clear. Humanity's tiny fleet was not what it appeared to be. And this was just the beginning. News of the defeat at Proxima Centauri spread through the Zraxian Empire like wildfire. In his palace on the Zraxian homeworld, High Commander Krasthar smashed a decorative statue as he read the reports. Impossible, he roared, his scales flushing, a dark red with anger. How could 30 of our warships be defeated by humans? His military advisors stood in nervous silence, none wanting to be the target of his rage. Fleet Commander Drazakor reports that the humans used unknown technology to neutralize our weapons. One brave officer finally said. They appeared to have only 12 ships initially, but more kept arriving. Krasthar paced the room, his clawed feet clicking against the polished floor. 12 ships, then 20? Where did they come from? Our intelligence reported that humanity had only 57 vessels in total. It seems, High Commander, that we were deceived, the officer said carefully. Krasthar stopped pacing. His eyes narrowed to thin slits. No primitive species deceives. The Zraxian Empire and lives to boast about it. Prepare the fleet, all of it. We will crush these humans once and for all. How many ships should we deploy? Asked the officer. 100, Krasthar said without hesitation. That should be more than enough to overwhelm whatever tricks they have prepared. Back on Earth, the United Earth Defense Council was in session. Admiral Peters stood before the holographic display showing the captured Zraxian vessels from the battle at Proxima Centauri. Operation Thunderbolt was a complete success, he reported. We disabled 23 enemy ships without losing a single vessel of our own. 7 Zraxian ships escaped to report back to their high command. And what will their response be? Asked President Diane Foster. General Rodriguez stepped forward. Our intelligence suggests they're mobilizing a much larger force, approximately 100 ships. A murmur ran through the council chamber. Can we stand against such numbers? President Foster asked. That's exactly what we've been preparing for, Admiral Peters said confidently. For 5 years, we've been developing strategies specifically designed to counter Zraxian tactics. They still don't understand the full extent of our capabilities. Captain Susan Mitchell, who had been invited to the council session due to her role in the battle, spoke up. The Zraxians rely on overwhelming force and predictable formations. They've never adapted because they've never needed to. Their arrogance is their greatest weakness. We've learned something else from the captured ships, added Dr. Eric Wilson, who had been studying the alien technology. Their communication systems are vulnerable to our quantum disruption field. We can not only neutralize their weapons, but cut off their ability to coordinate their fleet. President Foster nodded thoughtfully. How long until this Zraxian armada reaches our space? 4 days, General Rodriguez answered. They're gathering near their border outpost in the Sirius system. Then we have 4 days to prepare, the President said. Admiral Peters, you have full authorization to deploy all Neptune assets. It's time to show the Zraxian Empire exactly who they're dealing with. The Zraxian Armada was an impressive sight. 100 warships arranged in a perfect attack formation, prepared to enter human space. At its center was the massive dreadnought, Eternal Dominance, personally commanded by High Commander Krasthar. Sensors detect minimal defenses in the Sol system, reported his sensor officer. It appears their fleet is scattered across their colonies. Krasthar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. As we expected, they scrambled everything they had to defend Proxima Centauri. Now their homeworld lies vulnerable. There are some unusual energy readings near the orbit of Jupiter, the officer added. Possibly mining operations or research stations. Irrelevant, Krasthar dismissed. Once we control Earth, all their colonies and outposts will surrender. Begin the jump to the Sol system. The Zraxian fleet entered faster than light travel, confident in their overwhelming superiority. Admiral Peters coordinated from the bridge of the UES Intrepid, Earth's newest and most advanced command vessel. Around him stood his command staff, including Captain Mitchell, now promoted to tactical advisor, Commander Olivia Martinez, and intelligence officer Jake Wilson. All Neptune platforms are in position, reported the operations officer. Stealth systems functioning perfectly. Peters nodded. The Zraxians will emerge from FTL travel in approximately 3 minutes. Remember, let them think they've caught us unprepared. No one moves until I give the signal. The bridge was tense but calm as they waited. Earth's visible defenses consisted of only 20 ships, deliberately positioned to look like a hastily assembled last line of protection. Zraxian fleet emerging from FTL, announced the sensor officer. 100 vessels as expected. The main screen showed the Zraxian Armada as it appeared near the orbit of Mars. The ships were arranged in an attack formation, weapons already powering up. They're scanning our defenses, Commander Martinez reported. They're reading only our visible ships. Open a channel, Admiral Peters ordered. The face of High Commander Krasthar appeared on the screen. His expression showed surprise at seeing Peters. Admiral, he said, his voice dripping with contempt. I expected to find your planet poorly defended, but this is even more pathetic than I anticipated. 20 ships? Where is the rest of your fleet? Hiding among your colonies? Admiral Peters smiled calmly. High Commander, I offer you one chance to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Return to your territory, and we can renegotiate our treaty. Krasthar laughed. You are in no position to make demands. Your tiny fleet will be crushed within minutes. Earth will be under Zraxian control by the end of your day. You mistook our restraint for weakness, Peters replied. You mocked our tiny fleet because you only saw what we allowed you to see. He nodded to his communications officer, who sent the activation signal. What happened next stunned the Zraxians. From behind the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, hundreds of stealth vessels suddenly appeared, their cloaking fields deactivated. From the asteroid belt, concealed weapon platforms activated. From Earth itself, a defensive grid powered up that the Zraxians had never detected. Impossible, Krasthar exclaimed as his sensors showed the true extent of Earth's defenses. In a single moment, the hunter had become the hunted. The Zraxian Armada was completely surrounded. Full attack formation, Krasthar ordered. But as his fleet tried to respond, their communication systems failed. The quantum disruption field deployed by the human vessels cut off their ability to coordinate. The Neptune fleet moved with precise coordination, targeting the propulsion and weapon systems of the Zraxian ships. They didn't aim to destroy, only to disable. It was a humiliation worse than destruction. From his command chair, Admiral Peters watched as the supposedly mighty Zraxian fleet was systematically neutralized. Ship after ship lost power, weapons, or maneuverability. "Launch boarding parties," he ordered. "Let's see what other secrets the Zraxians have been keeping." Captain Mitchell led one of these teams, boarding the Eternal Dominance itself. Using specialized equipment developed from studying captured Zraxian technology, they bypassed security systems and reached the bridge within minutes. High Commander Krasthar stood defiant as human soldiers surrounded him. "How?" he demanded. "How did you develop all this without our knowledge?" Mitchell smiled. "You gave us the motivation when you mocked our capabilities 5 years ago. You gave us the opportunity when you let us study your technology through trade and diplomatic missions. And you gave us the time when you underestimated us so completely." Within 3 hours, the Battle of Sol was over. 93 Zraxian ships had been disabled and captured. The remaining 7 had surrendered without firing a shot. Not a single human vessel had been destroyed. It was the most one-sided victory in the history of interstellar warfare. And it sent a clear message throughout the galaxy. Humanity was not to be underestimated. As High Commander Krasthar was led away in restraints, he looked at the human ships surrounding his once proud fleet. "This changes everything," he murmured. "The Empire has never faced such defeat." Admiral Peters watched from the bridge of the Intrepid. "Send a message to the Zraxian High Council," he ordered. "Tell them we're ready to discuss new terms for our relationship, as equals." For the first time in 1,000 years, the Zraxian Empire would have to consider the unthinkable, negotiating with a species they had once dismissed as primitive. The tiny fleet they had mocked had become their doom. 3 months after the Battle of Sol, the Grand United Earth Council chamber buzzed with tension. Today, High Commander Krasthar would arrive to negotiate peace terms. This was unprecedented in Zraxian history. Their empire had never before sought peace after defeat. They had always either conquered or been conquered. Admiral Alan Peters stood beside Captain Susan Mitchell and President Diane Foster as the doors opened. Krasthar entered, flanked by 2 Zraxian officials. His normally proud posture was stiff but humble. The scales around his neck had faded from vibrant colors to a dull gray, a sign of shame in Zraxian culture. "Welcome to Earth, President," Foster said formally. "We appreciate your willingness to discuss a new relationship between our peoples." Krasthar bowed his head slightly. "The Zraxian Empire has existed for 1,000 years. In that time, we have never encountered a species like yours." His voice had lost its earlier arrogance. "We severely misjudged humanity." "In what way?" asked Admiral Peters. "In every way," Krasthar admitted. "You showed tactical brilliance and technological innovation beyond anything we anticipated. We thought your restraint was weakness. We were wrong." President Foster gestured to the conference table. "Then let us start again as equals this time." For the next several hours, they discussed terms. The Zraxian Empire would recognize all human territories and colonies. Trade agreements would be established on fair terms. Most importantly, cultural and scientific exchange programs would begin immediately. "There is something else you should know," Krasthar said near the end of the negotiations. "The Zraxian Empire has been expanding aggressively for a reason. There are threats beyond our borders, ancient enemies who have returned after centuries of silence." Susan leaned forward. "Is that why you were so determined to claim our colonies as buffer zones?" Krasthar nodded. "Our scientists believe these enemies will reach our space within 5 years. We have been preparing, but after seeing what your species accomplished in just 5 years..." He left the sentence unfinished. President Foster exchanged glances with her advisors. "Perhaps this is an opportunity for true alliance, not just peace." "An alliance?" Krasthar seemed surprised. After what we tried to do to your people? Humanity has a long history of fighting alongside former enemies, Admiral Peters explained. Sometimes the best allies are those who have tested each other's strength firsthand. 1 month later, Susan Mitchell, now promoted to Admiral, stood on the observation deck of the UES Defiant. Beside her was Zraxian officer Vrelkor, a military liaison assigned to learn human tactics. Below them, a combined human-Zraxian fleet prepared for a joint exploration mission to the borders of known space. The sleek, fast human vessels complemented the larger, more heavily armored Zraxian warships. Both fleets had been modified with shared technology. Your people have a saying, Vrelkor said, watching the ships, about the error of judging books by their covers. Susan smiled. We have many sayings, but perhaps the one you should remember is this. Humanity may extend a hand in friendship, but will never hesitate to make a fist when threatened. The Zraxian nodded thoughtfully. A wise approach. If the ancient enemies return, they will face not one species, but two united in strength. Their combined fleet prepared to enter faster than light travel. Susan reflected on how quickly things had changed. 5 years ago, the Zraxians had mocked humanity's tiny fleet. Now they studied human tactics and technology with respect. Whatever waited beyond the stars, humanity was ready. Not just with ships and weapons, but with the one thing that had always ensured their survival, the ability to turn enemies into allies, to forge strength from diversity, and to face the unknown without fear. The stars awaited. The end,